Good day, everybody. Today we're talking about a good news story about a Doomsday Mum who kidnapped her children, and they have been found safe and sound. Now, these Doomsday Mum stories can end very tragically, as we know from Laurie Vallow Daybell. Um, she murdered her two children, JJ and Tylee. Then there was the mum in Colorado who she thought the end of times was coming, the 41-year-old Christine Vance, and she took her son, who was 14, and her sister, who was 42, went with her into the Colorado wilderness. They bought Kmart tents and Kmart sleeping bags, which were completely insufficient for the Colorado snowy winter. And she bought food like noodles and crisps and things like that, which were not nutritious at all. Unfortunately, they did not survive their first winter out in the wilderness, and they all perished. Their bodies were recovered, and autopsies showed that they died of malnutrition. So these doomsday mums kidnapping their children can end very, very badly. But this mother who kidnapped her children out of Utah, the four children, three with the same father, and then the youngest one, the 3-year-old, had a different father. They have been found safe and sound. They are now in what's been described as an orphanage in Croatia, of all places. So, what happened in this case was the mother has these doomsday ideas and these dreams of the end of times. And then she was putting this information out on TikTok, and she got into touch with a lady in Croatia, also an American, who also believed in these end time prophecies. And she had taken her son to Croatia because of these end time doomsday kind of beliefs. And so the TikTok lady went to Croatia with her four children without the permission of the two fathers. Um, and they went in November last year, and nobody saw hide nor hair of them. Nobody knew where they were. They knew that they'd gone to the airport because they had some footage in the airport of them leaving the country. The mum had, excuse me, there's a aeroplane, a noisy aeroplane. The mum had contacted one of the dads and said they were on their way to Amsterdam. And it turns out they actually were on their way to Amsterdam, but they missed their flight. I don't know if that was deliberate or not. Anyway, then they ended up going to Croatia to this TikTok buddy of hers, and they stayed there for this month and a half. And how they were found is quite interesting. So the lady who was already in Croatia, she has a 13-year-old son, and he had access to the internet. The other kids did not have access to the internet. They're 11 and younger. And so the 11-year-old said to the 13-year-old, can you Google us? Because, our dads have been out of touch with us and I'm getting a little bit worried. Now, this report comes to us from these four children's auntie. So the sister of the dad of three of the children. Anyway, and she's been interviewed on various YouTube channels. So the 11-year-old says to the 13-year-old who was already in Croatia, can you Google us? I'm getting a bit worried. And so the 13-year-old Googles the kids' names, and they find an absolute goldmine of information. They find that the mother has kidnapped them. The fathers never gave any permission for them to be out of the country. The fathers never gave any permission for them to be gone for so long. And interestingly, these kids knew that the mother had these doomsday beliefs, but the children didn't believe it. Even the 8-year-old girl, she said no, her mother believed strange things, and they didn't believe that, but they did think that they had the mum had permission to take them out of the US and to travel around with them. So anyway, when this happened, the 13-year-old told his mum and showed her all the. No, I think he put it in a group chat or something. Anyway, he let his mum know that this is what had happened. And then his mother, all credit to her, made the other mother pack up all their belongings and took them to a police station so that this could be reported to the police. Now, remember, they're in Croatia. None of them speak Croatian, so there's a language barrier issue there. So they get to the police station and something happens. There's an altercation. The two women get into a fight. So the two women both end up getting arrested. So now there's the four children that came illegally from America, and then the fifth one, who was the 13-year-old who was already in America. They all get put into an orphanage. until, for safekeeping basically, until the whole thing can get sorted out. So now the 5 children are all in an orphanage. Now, the 13-year-old who was already in Croatia, there's no suggestion that he was out of the US illegally. His father doesn't appear to be in the picture, and there's no suggestion that there was any custodial interference or any kidnapping. That mother of the single child, there's no suggestion of that, but she is being held by the authorities. We're not sure if it's because of the altercation with the other mother. We're not sure if it's because of some concerns about the welfare of that child. Somebody had said that in Croatia they're very concerned about children if they're not going to school, and of course this boy wasn't going to school, so we're not exactly sure what the situation is there. However, the other 4 who definitely were kidnapped, those 4 remain in this orphanage for safekeeping, and their auntie and uncle, which is their their father and their auntie, have come from America to Croatia, and they thought they would just be able to say, here's the birth certificates, let's pick them up, let's go back home. But it's not quite that simple. Apparently there's a whole lot of processes that need to be gone through, and a whole lot of, it's a complicated process. The auntie and the father of those, of 3 of the 4 kids, they don't really know what the process is or how long it's going to take, but the US Embassy is trying to help them navigate the process. So it looks like they're going to have to be patient. It's going to take a little while, and they've ended up having to stay there, and they can see the kids 2 hours a day. Of course, in this orphanage, there's one of the workers speaks a little bit of English, and a couple of the other older kids speak a little bit of English, but most of them don't speak any English at all. You can imagine how terrifying that must be, especially for the 3-year-old. Every time the auntie and it's not the father of the 3-year-old, it's the father of the 3 older children, come to visit, they think they're going home with them, and especially the little one thinks they're going home with them, and then they're not. So the father of the little one is still back in the US, and he's given these other 2 permission to handle his daughter and try and bring his daughter back to the US. Now, we're not sure if the children have to wait there until the mother's extradited. Will the mother be extradited? Will the mother be charged in Croatia for something else? I don't know. Failing to send her children to school? I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. But anyway, this is the process that this family is going through. And so I'm going to put a GoFundMe link down the bottom below, because this poor family trying to get the children out of the country, they've got significant expenses. Obviously, the cost of the hotels, the cost of the kids left with just the clothes on their backs. And I recently had a house fire, and we had to leave our house with just the clothes on our backs. And I know what that's like. You've got nothing. You don't even have underwear. Anyway, they've bought the kids some clothes, but then when it gets washed at the orphanage, it all gets put into a communal pile, and they're not guaranteed to get their clothes back. So, but I think that's the least of the expenses. It's really the hotel, and there must be some legal bills, food. They're missing work now. They don't know how long they're going to have to be there. So if you can chip into the GoFundMe, I'm going to link it below. Please do chip in, and I will keep you updated as to where this case goes. But yeah, this is a terrible human interest story as well as a legal story. And what's the mother's defense going to be? There's really no defense. I think the end of times is coming is not a defense to parental kidnapping or custodial interference. So she's got a long, hard road ahead of her through the courts, and I will keep you updated. Thank you very much for listening.